Scene 1. The Road. The road stretched endlessly through the frozen wilderness. Snow devoured the world, and the headlights carved thin tunnels of light between black pines. Each mile pulled us deeper into silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of something waiting. I pressed my forehead against the cold window. The glass stung, but I didn't move. I watched the trees slide past, their shadows clawing across the snow. The engine groaned, and for a moment, I thought it sounded less like a machine and more like breathing. The driver muttered something about the weather, but I barely heard him. My thoughts were louder. What was I doing here? So far from civilization, from warmth, from safety. At last, the camp appeared. A handful of wooden barracks crouched beneath the weight of winter. Their roofs sagged, chimneys long cold, windows blank. It didn't look like a place for people. It looked like a place that had been abandoned, or worse, forgotten. We stepped out into air that sliced our lungs. The snow crunched beneath our boots, but the sound didn't carry. It was swallowed instantly by the forest, as though the trees had been waiting to devour even the smallest noise. Scene 2. The Rules. Inside, the barrack was dim, lit by a single bulb that flickered as though reluctant to stay alive. The walls were stained with age, the wood darkened, smelling of damp earth and oil. Matvey gathered us at a table scarred with knife marks and cigarette burns. I'll tell you his name now, so you know who you'll hear. Matvey spoke with the voice of a man who had delivered the same speech too many times. Matvey said the rules in a flat, measured tone, his gaze heavy on each of us.
We work during the day, we rest at night. No wandering after dark. The forest doesn't forgive curiosity.
His tone wasn't advice. It wasn't even a warning. It was law. The others nodded, some with nervous smiles, others with eyes that looked anywhere but at him. I felt my stomach twist. The way he said it. Not if something happened, but when. Scene 3. First Nights. The first days blurred into rhythm, shovels biting into frozen ground. The smell of diesel seeping into clothes, tin bowls clattering in the dim mess hall. By dusk, the sky was already closing and we were too exhausted to think. But nights. The nights had a pulse. At first, I told myself it was only the wind, the way it moved through the trees, through cracks in the walls. But then, one night I heard knocking. Not random, not the shifting of old wood. 3 sharp knocks, pause, 2 more, from the far side of the barrack. I held my breath. The others snored softly. I lay still, every muscle tense, until dawn. The next morning I asked Slavka about it. I'll name him before you hear his voice, so you know it's him. I asked Slavka what the knocking had been. He lowered his eyes and muttered in a voice too small for his frame.
Don't ask.
And he walked away, his shoulders stiff, like a man avoiding a pit he knew was waiting for him. Scene 4. The humming. On the 5th night, I woke to a sound that didn't belong to this world. a heavy mechanical hum. At first I thought it was the generator, but the generator was outside and this sound was everywhere, pressing through the walls, through my bones. It was not a machine. It was alive, like lungs made of iron, drawing in the frozen air. I crept to the window. The pines were statues in the moonlight. The snow shone pale and untouched, and yet the sound grew louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, as suddenly as it had come, it stopped. The silence after was worse, because silence means the thing has noticed you. At breakfast, I couldn't keep it to myself. I turned to Matvey. I'll say his name now so you know who speaks next, Matvey. I told Matvey about the humming, about the way it filled the barrack. He didn't even blink.
Keep your mouth shut. Follow the rules. That's how you last here.
He didn't ask questions. Not when, not where, not how, because he already knew. Scene 5. Slavka disappears. 2 days later, Slavka was gone. His bed was empty. His clothes were folded neatly on the chair, as if he had stepped outside for a moment and never returned. We searched. Flashlights stabbed the snow. Boots stamped the silence. We shouted his name until our throats cracked. At the edge of the camp, we found faint marks in the snow. Not footprints, drags, like something heavy had been pulled into the trees. But even those were fading, erased by the wind. The others looked at Matvey. He was the one who would decide what to do. Matvey spoke with a voice like a locked door.
Enough. We keep working. No stories. No panic.
No one argued. No one dared. But the silence around the table was heavier than the storm outside. Scene 6. The Shadow. That night I couldn't sleep. The wind rattled the boards. The barrack moaned like an old ship. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Then the door creaked open. Slow, careful. A shadow slipped inside. At first, I thought it was one of the men. But when the figure stepped into the pale light, my blood froze. It was Slavka, or something wearing his skin. His eyes were empty holes. His mouth stretched into a smile that split his face too wide. He didn't move, didn't blink. He just stood there, and then, as if the darkness itself pulled him back, he was gone. At dawn, I told Matvey. I'll make it clear. Matvey will speak next. I told him I had seen Slavka or something that looked like him. Matvey's expression didn't change.
You want to live through this? Follow the rules. Don't chase ghosts.
Rules. Not for order, not for discipline. Rules. For survival. Scene 7. The last night. The final night began with a silence too deep to be natural. Even the wind had stopped. We sat in our bunks, pretending to read, pretending to sleep, but every ear strained for what would come. And then, it came. The humming. Louder than before. Closer. It vibrated in the air, rattled the glass in the windows. It was not outside anymore. It was everywhere. Then another sound joined it, singing. Low, droning, a chant without words, like the forest itself had found a voice. The walls seemed to tremble with it. My teeth ached from the vibration. I rose against every instinct and looked through the window. At first I thought it was the dark playing tricks, but then the shadows shifted, and I saw it. Between the trees moved something enormous. Its outline devoured the starlight. Its arms were long, too long, dragging across the snow. And its eyes burned like coals, deep red, watching. Scene 8. The names. I stumbled back from the window. My breath fogged the glass, but I couldn't tear my gaze away. The creature reached out a clawed hand. Not toward me, but toward the wall of the barrack. Wood splintered. Snow fell from the roof as the boards shuddered. And then I saw it. On the planks, gouged deep with claws, were names. The first was Slavka, carved rough, raw, the wood bleeding splinters, and beneath it, fresh, wet scratches forming new letters. My name. Scene 9. The escape. I ran. The barrack shook behind me. Men shouting, the chanting swallowing their cries. I crashed into the snow, boots slipping, lungs burning. The sound chased me. The humming, the song, the scrape of claws. Branches tore at my coat, ripped at my skin. I stumbled, fell, rose again. The forest tilted, spun. Every shadow hid eyes. Every tree reached to drag me down. I thought I heard Slavka's voice calling my name, but it wasn't his. It wasn't human. I ran until the ground gave way beneath me. Snow filled my mouth, my eyes, my ears, and then there was nothing. Scene 10. The morning. When I opened my eyes, the world was white. The sun was pale above the treetops. The camp lay silent behind me. No smoke from chimneys. No footprints in the snow. No voices, only the barracks. And on the wall, my name carved deep, waiting. I left the taiga that day. I never went back. But sometimes late at night when the world is finally quiet, I hear it again, breathing, heavy, mechanical, alive. And I know the forest still remembers.